What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Abbas. This is another episode of the crossover. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by my guy LHC. Man, how you doing?
I'm absolutely amazing, man. How are you?
Listen, we had a great event over the weekend. I saw you talking to Mans, which you're going to go into detail about as well. So I can't
Cool.
really complain. It's been a great weekend. Now we're just going to unravel everything that we've seen. But before we go into that, here's a quick little video from our sponsor. There you go, guys. Use the promo code iBoxingHub24. Get yourself 40% off across D-Rock's website. Let's go straight into it, bro. The first thing I want to ask you is about the KSI fight. It was
Yes.
on and now it's off with Wayne. When you heard the announcement, because we were all there, what was your
Yes.
initial thoughts behind it?
Honestly, my first reaction was this has got to be some sort of troll or prank because obviously there was a lot of speculation on Twitter that same morning about it being Wainbridge. And I remember me and my mate on the way to the venue, and they were like, and he kept thinking it was him. I was like, "There's surely it can't be him." And then he walked into the ring. I thought, "There's no way." I was in like such disbelief. And honestly, when he was calling out all these guys, I thought he was originally going to say, "Oh yeah, my opponent pulled out. I'm going to fight the winner of Dan Till versus Anthony Taylor." And then Wayne Bridge gets in the ring, and it was just. I'll be honest with you. As much as I love KSI and I love Misfits, I was not impressed at all. But thankfully, that's not the case anymore, and he's pulled out. So hopefully, we get a decent next opponent for him.
So this is my thing. And this is something Jake's done well for himself because Jake's
Yeah,
managed to get so many fights so quickly, whereas KSI probably hasn't. He's managed to fight MMA guys, he's managed to fight lower up boxers, he's managed to even get the Mike Tyson fight. Regardless of what you think, he's had that activity, but he's had activity with names. And
yeah,
because Misfits, Mams, KSI, they've kind of gotten at Jake to say you're fighting older people. The pool of fighters for KSI is so limited outside of Jake Paul, outside of Conor McGregor, that like you said, Darren Till's one of them names that you bring up and you think he's got to be next to fight him. It was AT, it was
absolutely.
Slim. The only problem is AT's now lost to Darren Till. Slim lost to AT. So the pool of fighters really for KSI is so limited that where do you think we see him fight come March? Or do you think we might not see him fight?
Personally, I do think we will see him fight again. You know, it's been a very long time since he's fought. I did see something on Twitter. I'm not sure if I 100% believe it, but apparently that Wayne Bridge was never on the list, and
Mm.
it was all a plan. So I'm. If I had to pick an opponent for KSI, I made a TikTok on this. I actually think Anison Gibb would be a decent opponent. Now, the reason why I say this is because when Gibb versus Slim, sorry, KSI was obviously like pretty much hating on Gibbs, saying, "Oh yeah, Slim's gonna knock you out." Blah 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 blah. Gibb then made not light work, but Gibb gave Slim a good fight, you know, and he beat Slim. KSI was then like shocked. He was in disbelief. He was silent, and the whole storyline is there. You know, from friends turned foes. Gibb is now the number one in Misfits, and Gibb has called out KSI, saying he wants to fight another CEO. He's obviously not going to fight Mans Taylor. He means KSI. So that's I think as well as a warm up fight because obviously KSI's been out for 18 months. I think that's a good fight for KSI to take. And if not, well, honestly, obviously Darren Till's there. He just fought Anthony Taylor, who just main evented a Misfits card. And to be honest with you, I think Darren Till gives KSI a good fight. But obviously he wants to fight a heavier weight, so Darren Till's the heavier weight. So there you go. There's I feel like there's a lot of good options, but apparently so. Obviously his team, his coaches are not giving him much options, as in they're kind of declining the hard fights, and that's the reason why he's getting all these easier fights.
Do you think, like you said about Gib, and I agree, I think that's a fight that can be made and it fits
Absolutely.
perfectly with the scene. The only thing I would say is, do you think it needs a bit longer to mature? Because
Absolutely.
it's about 2 months now, so it needs somewhere to be announced. I think Manchester was perfect to announce a fight. It, like you said, the reaction's not been the best, and obviously now Wayne Bridges pulled that. Do you think it needs something to announce it, but then later on, like I think Mams was saying, he wants to get KSI out 3 times in the year, and like you said, for me, because of who KSI, he's basically he is a prize fighter, and to then get a prize fight, you need someone who can bring something along with him, and that's the only problem. It's like, if you are going to bring somebody, we need time to mature that fight to really promote it, and it's not KSI's fault. I don't. The reason I say that is it's because he's so successful before the boxing that it's similar with Jake. Once he gets into the boxing world, it needs someone with the same value as him, and that's the problem you've got with KSI and kind of with Jake as well. But yeah, no, I agree. I like Gib. I would say this: like, I'm not against it, even though AT lost or Slim's lost. I know Slim's got a fight, I think, potentially coming up, and he's not with Misfits anymore. I would like to see, as a quote unquote tune-up fight, someone like KSI versus Anthony Taylor. But again, people will probably say, "Hey, you're just cherry picking someone who's just come off a big loss." So he's kind of in a lose-lose situation unless he fights
I was
huge.
going to say as well, I feel like, don't get me wrong, the Wayne Bridge announcement was absolute shambles, and that fight should never be made. But regardless of who KSI fights, realistically, the community is not going to be happy. Another thing you've got to think of, it's 18 months after his last fight, and he's coming off a loss.
Yeah.
So you've got to give the man some credit. No matter who he fights, unless it's someone like Jake Paul or Tommy Fury or Darren Till, no one's going to be happy on who he fights, because everyone wants to see KSI versus a big, like a big credible opponent. But he's coming off a loss, and he hasn't fought in over a year. So you've got to give the guy some credit for one. Wayne Bridge, obviously, that is just obviously I don't even know why we're talking about that. I don't even know why that was confirmed. But I think KSI should fight someone who's doesn't necessarily have a big name or has a big name, but people need to give him some credit. So
Yeah.
at least give him a fighter, or maybe even an influencer. Like, I wouldn't be mad seeing Salt Pappy or King Kenny or Slim or Gibb or Anthony Taylor, someone like that, as a tune-up fight. But regardless, the KSI community, the influencer boxing community, no matter who he fights, unless it's Jake Paul, people are not going to be interested.
Shall I be honest, between me and you, I'm really interested in a Tommy Fury rematch.
Listen, I
I
would
think,
love to see that.
yeah, because both guys, if you really think about it, they haven't fought since they fought. The
Yes.
fight was really close. I've always said I've edged it towards KSI anyway when I was
Same.
there.
I said that as well. And I'll never go
Both
back
have
on
had,
the word either. I
yeah,
still think KSI won.
same. Both have had injuries. Tommy Fury doesn't really have a path in traditional boxing in that sense. He's pulled out of fights, and I just think right now that would just be the perfect combination. Run that rematch. And then, to be honest, that will probably give a very good indicator of where KSI is
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
what KSI does in terms of boxing. For me, if you were to give me the number one opponent, it's not even Jake Paul yet. I need Jake Paul's fight to materialize towards it. Just you can sell that Tommy Fury fight in 2 months. I think that Tommy Fury fight for me is the A1 fight for both guys right now.
Sorry, baby, 1 second, my dog's barking.
That's fine, no worries, man. We'll just, if you don't mind, move on to the actual main card itself and Misfits in Manchester on Saturday. Your first event, if I'm not wrong. Is that right?
No, my third event.
Oh, third. Is it your
That's
first
right.
in media, sorry, or was it?
Oh,
Because I saw.
no. So, I went to Misfits 14, Misfits 18 with
Oh,
media
okay.
at the events,
Yeah.
but this was my first time doing the fight week stuff, so I went to
Oh,
press.
right. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
What did you make of the event as a whole first.
All right. So I'll probably I'll start from top to bottom to top. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what was the first fight again?
It was the heavyweight fight, the one that I can't remember the names, but it was a nice. It's just a nice little tune-up fun fight. For I think it was like it was like 1 round, a knockout victory. So yeah, it was just a nice little fun traditional Misfits fight to kick off the card. I'll see if I can
Oh, I
bring it up.
forgot. I don't know how I forgot it was the first fight.
But
Oh,
yeah,
okay, well, I'll tell you my highlights. First
yeah,
of all, Little T making his debut. As much as the 1 second.
cool.
Oh,
Talking about Little
yeah.
T, some of your highlights
Little
before we go
T,
into some of the fights.
as much as the fight wasn't the most well, no, it was entertaining, but as
It was
much as it
chaos.
wasn't the most skilled, it was chaos, yes. But Little T, he's good on the mic, you know, he called out Bevo. That's interesting. Tommy Hench versus Ty Mitchell. Listen, Tommy Hench, props to him, you know, he gave it his best. And people need to stop clowning him just because he lost. Like, the guy who fought, Ty Mitchell's an absolute menace. He is amazing. Like, one of the best, if not the best, boxer I've seen on Misfits. And I say that, like, confidently. I think he gives Idris Virgo a run for his money. And that is another fight that I would love to see. Who else is there? Sami Hamed versus Ziggy
Yep.
Johnson. Sami Hamed now 2-0. Ziggy Johnson's actually had a lot of fighting experience, and for Sami Hamed to finish him off like that in his second ever fight is amazing. I personally would love to see Sami Hamed versus someone like Ryan Spencer or even Jarvis next. Who else we got?
We got Wade making his debut.
Oh my god, Wade. Right, I'll save Wade to last because he was my favourite.
The main event.
Darren Till, I'll go for the main event now. Darren Till, I honestly thought Anthony Taylor was going to win. I thought Anthony Taylor was going to, you know, I thought it was going to be a tough fight, a close fight. I thought Anthony Taylor would have edged it. But Darren Till surprised the hell out of me. I knew it would be a tough fight. I knew Darren Till would be good. But did I expect him to do what he did? Absolutely not. And personally, from what I saw, being really close to the ring as well, I think Darren Till gives KSI, Tommy Fury, Jake Paul problems if he fights them. I'm telling you that now. I think he's better than all of Jake Paul's opponents, apart from maybe Tommy Fury, or like maybe on the same level. I think Darren Till's really good. Props to Anthony Taylor. You know, he kept getting back up. He didn't. You know, he didn't quit. He got back up every single time. You know. Now for Wade, I was ecstatic when I saw this. I didn't have a lot of expectations for either fighter because I don't really see much from any of them. But Wade did amazing. Like every right hand he threw, 9 times out of 10 he landed, and it was flushed down the pipe. You know, he did really well. He looked really well. Good footwork, good head movement. You know, he was leaning out with the jab. He looked amazing in there for 5 weeks. And listen, he looked better than me in my first fight, and I've had 2 years training. He had 5 weeks. That man, and BJ Floors, like, what a coach for getting him to that point. Wade, for me, was my fighter of the night. He was my highlight of the night. That man did amazing. For being a commentator, to having 5 weeks of training and then doing that to Messiah Pinder. And Messiah Pinder, by the way, credit to him because he took those punches like a champ as well, and he did well. And I mean, have you seen the size of him and seen like how he looks? He looks like a Greek god. But honestly, that fight, the whole event for me was amazing.
I was gonna say, I'll agree with you with this. When it comes to Wade, it kind of surprised me how good he looked, but at the same time, I think some of the videos that were coming out prior to the debut on Twitter and stuff, they did show that Wade was actually really good. Like his actual just technical side was very impressive. But I do want to talk about the main event. Darren
Yeah,
Till, like you said, I thought similar. I was on the same wavelength. Like I was one of them people that, as AT says, look, doubt me. The odds makers think I'm not the favorite, but I'll showcase that I am. And up until recently, I was kind of the same. I thought Anthony Taylor, the hugger, don't read. He's not really that guy as much as he gets the wins. But then he's kind of won over not just certain people, but a lot of the Misfits community to the point where when the announcement was made, I think it was the first time I saw it where everyone was like, we're happy for Anthony Taylor to be the main event instead of Tommy Fury. But Darren Till, the power, the accuracy. But I think for me, it was just the power. The power, I did not expect that to come
Absolutely.
as
Every
it
time
was
he
magic.
landed
Yeah,
that right hand, every time he landed that right hand, it like Anthony Taylor went down and he was like holding on for dear life. You know, Darren Till surprised the hell out of me. I thought it was going to be like a 50-50 fight.
yeah,
I thought Anthony Taylor was going to win. To see Darren Till do that was incredible, and he would be, in my opinion, he would beat all of KSI's former opponents and all of Jake Paul's former opponents. Maybe not Tommy Fury, maybe him and Tommy Fury. I think him versus Tommy Fury is a good
Anfield,
fight. I wish Tommy
Liverpool.
Fury didn't pull out. I'll say that for one. That's a good fight. But honestly, Darren Till surprised the hell out of me.
I was going to say, when it comes to Darren Till, like you said, because he's managed to get the win and the manner that he's got the win, do you think there's more to come from him and more that Misfits want to work with him, or do you think it's one of them one and done type of things and he may come back into boxing, or do you think he's there now as part of the roster?
I think so. From what I've seen on Twitter, he is signed with Misfits now, but Mams Taylor has agreed for him to fight Jake Paul because apparently Darren Till's got a fight in the works with Jake Paul at Anfield Stadium in the summertime. I don't think he's going away from boxing at all. I think he's here to stay for a good few more fights. Him versus Jake Paul was amazing. Gives Jake Paul a really tough fight. And listen, I'm not gonna say he does, but I won't be surprised if he beats him. If he beats Jake Paul. If he beats Jake Paul, then it won't be the best for influencer boxing. But that's a good fight. And if Jake Paul can beat someone like Darren Till, who's probably one of the most credible opponents, it puts Jake Paul in a really good position. And obviously, say if Jake Paul fights Darren Till, Jake Paul beats Darren Till, and then KSI fights Darren Till and then beats Darren Till, the fight is there. Do you know what I mean? The KSI.
Yeah.
All we want, really, as influencer boxing fans, is KSI versus Jake Paul, and it has to happen at the end of this year. We've been waiting for too long. How many years is it now? 9 years in the making, or something like that. Something crazy. Yeah, honestly, I think Darren Till's here to stay. I don't know if he'll fight on Misfits his next fight if he's fighting Jake Paul, but I think he's here to stay.
Yeah, I think when you look at his MMA career, he's done with that particular chapter, and I think the reception he's gotten from people who never expected, like yourself said, I think it probably puts him on that point of view to say, yeah, I do want to stay. I want to continue it on. Another name you mentioned, obviously, you've talked about Wade and how we both appreciated his performance, but I do want to talk about Sammy. I spoke to him quite a few times over Thursday, Friday, and one of the things he did say to me was, "Look, the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is I might spar pros, I might train like a pro, but I'm not a professional boxer." When you look at the guys he's fighting, or actually, let's not say the guys, the performance he's putting on. How long do you think it will be until he might transition to that traditional boxing route, or do you think he's going to stay in Misfits? And like you said to me before, he goes, "I'm a prize fighter, so I can fight for the money, and I know I'll get more money here." Do you think there's a point in his career where he might transition into that professional route?
That's a very, very good question. I personally think I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think he's got a lot of potential in the sport. I think if he
He's got the charisma. He's definitely got the
I
charisma
think
for it.
he's got the personality. He's got like you say, he's got the charisma. He's really good. I think if he keeps fighting, I think maybe even give Jarvis some of his money and take Jarvis's belt. Who knows? I think he'll. If I had to predict it, he'll be on Misfits for a good few more fights, and then see maybe he goes to Misfits Pro, or maybe he just turns pro, or who knows. But yeah, I think he'll stay on Misfits for a little bit longer, and then once he gets to that level, he'll turn pro.
Sweet. Now, I've got to brought you on the show, and I've got to ask about yourself and your boxing journey. Like I said, I saw you speaking with Mams, and you said that you want to follow a journey to be on Misfits. So just talk to me a little bit about your boxing history itself, and when did you make that decision that eventually you want to fight on Misfits?
Okay, so it all started. obviously I've been a fan of the scene since bloody Joe Weller versus KSI. That was
Same.
like that. If anything, that brought me into boxing more. That made me interested in boxing. Made me interested in the scene. And it was the first Misfits event when KSI versus Alex Wasabi got announced. This is when influencer boxing was starting to come back and starting to pick up again and starting to get good. Obviously, this was around the time that I left school, and I've always wanted to box because I'll be honest with you, the main reason why I chose boxing is because when I was in school, I got bullied a lot. I was always like a fragile, skinny, defenseless little boy and such. So I wanted to feel that I wanted to feel confident. I wanted to feel confident and comfortable in my own skin. And I started TikTok in 2020, making videos just about like superheroes. I didn't show my face or anything. I had about, I think, what was it, 30K or something. And then I stopped for ages, and then Misfits Boxing came along, and the first Misfits Boxing event, when I watched the whole event, as soon as it finished, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and that was to fight on Misfits. And another thing is, right, because I live with my auntie and my cousins. All I wanted to do was make my heavenly mum proud. She passed away in 2020. And that's one of my drives, one of my reasons why I'm doing it, just to keep going and going and going. That's why I've never given up. That's why I've gotten to the state I am today. I started making influencer boxing content May 2022. A lot of people think I'm new to the scene. A lot of people think that I don't create content. I've been creating content on TikTok consistently for years now. And I've been chasing that dream since the beginning, and I've never given up. I've stayed consistent with my content. I've been training for around the same time. I started 2022 in September, trained with my coach. Had my first fight back in November last year, which unfortunately did not go my way. But I promoted loads of it leading up to it. I learned a lot from it. Yeah, honestly, it's been an amazing journey so far. I can't wait for it to continue. I'll get a lot of love and support from my fans, and yeah.
In terms of when you spoke with Mums, then what did he say to you just to keep that motivation going? And did he say to you, "Yeah, there's the possibility there for you. You might need to do X, Y, and Z." What was that conversation like for you to know there's an opportunity here potentially in the future?
So what it was is obviously that I met him twice. The first time I met him at the just after the weigh-in, I spoke to him. I said, hey, it's LHC, and he recognised me because he's seen my stuff on Twitter. I'm hoping he's seen my stuff on TikTok. He hasn't made it obvious, but he does know of me. He knows of my journey. He knows of my fight. He showed me support after my fight. He showed me support before my fight. So basically, what it was is obviously took a photo of him first, and the second time I met up with him, I gave him a little interview, just a couple questions, and when I asked him about what he thought of my journey and how I could get to Misfits, he basically said, "Keep being consistent with my content, be original, train hard, and grow more of a fan base, and he'll come looking for me rather than me going to him."
Cool. I mean, that's the dream. For
Yeah,
there's a
absolutely.
lot of creators that will come in and say, now the thing I want to ask you is, how serious will you be when it comes to that? Like, how locked in will you be to put on that performance where you might get put in a fight where you're the underdog? How are you gonna then overcome that? Because
Listen
we
to
see
me
that.
right now. Listen to me right now, mate. Yeah. I've never wanted something so much in my life. Ever since the first Misfits event, all I think about in the back of my head, when I go to sleep, when I wake up, when I eat, when I shower, when I train, when I make a TikTok, all I think about is making that Misfits Boxing debut. Right, I am so serious about it, and the thing is, the main reason why I want to go on Misfits as well is because not for me, not just for me, not for the money, not for the glory, not for the fame, but I want to use it as a platform to inspire people
Mm.
because obviously I think Misfits has a massive audience, maybe from ages 15 to 25, I'd say, something like that. And from what I've been through, from what I've experienced, losing my mum, being bullied, and all these things, I want to use it to inspire people that no matter what you've been through, no matter who you are, no matter who your parents are, no matter what things you've experienced in life, you can't let it overcome you, and you can overcome it and become the best version of yourself. And for me to speak on that platform. That's all I've ever wanted to do. I've wanted to inspire people and change people's lives, especially the people that have changed my life over the years who have supported me. And obviously wanted to make my Heavenly Man proud as well. I am so serious. This is something that I've been. It's a dream. It's not just a dream, but it's a goal, and it's something that I'm working towards every single day. I've been creating content. You know, if you saw me 2 years ago, you'd think there's no way he's making it on Misfits. There's no way he's talking to all these Misfits fighters. There's no way he's getting anywhere. To where I am now, I'm making progress. I've never been so serious about something in my life. Let's put it that way. If I fight anyone on the Misfits roster, 155 pounds, which is what I weigh.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, I'm going to be training the hardest. I'm going to be doing absolutely everything I can to get my hand raised.
Do you know what we should do? So I'm gonna put it out there in the universe.
Go
I
on.
think mums should do a thing where, say, like yourself, you're a content creator, but there's a different, you do like boxing related content, right?
Yes.
I think mums should gather up a lot of the Misfits actual creators, not necessarily the creators, but just those that talk about it, and do a little tournament like that, and then have one champion of that as well. Like, I'd be down for it as well. Like, I mean,
That's
I'll
sick.
put my hat
Yeah.
into it. Like, I don't mind doing it as well.
That would actually be really
It's like
interesting.
a
Obviously,
journalism version of Misfits Boxing tournament or something like that.
you
Would
had
just be
to know.
super cool.
Obviously, there's a lot of people who make Misfits content that are already fighting on there too. So
Yeah.
obviously, you've got Boxer G, you've got Wade, you've got Joey Knight, you've got me on TikTok. There's loads of guys who make content about the scene, and it's definitely the opportunity for them. But then again, there are a few people that make content about Misfits that don't necessarily want to fight on it, but a lot of them do, and I think that'll be actually a really interesting idea. To be fair.
And how cool would it be just sitting on that press conference table? Like,
Yeah,
KSI's
that's
just there, and
sick.
it's like, if I was ever fighting, I'd say to him, listen, if I win my fight, you've got to agree to let me interview you finally. That's probably the one thing I'd put as a stipulation to KSI. I'd be like, I want to
Yeah,
do an interview with you, but only if I win. Like, that would be something I'd put in my contract for Misfits. But you know what? Honestly, man, like, I don't see why you can't do it. Like, I just thought I'd ask you about your journey, and like, I can hear the drive, see the passion, and I genuinely think that give it a couple more years, because Misfits is here to stay.
absolutely.
100%. Like, we've seen a lot of influencer boxing companies, whatever you want to say, they don't have that. Misfits has the resources, but it also has a following, like a genuine following. And I think at this point, it's everything else that comes against Misfits is basically copycat, and it just doesn't stand.
Absolutely. Misfits is that's why I've chosen Misfits, because
Mm.
Misfits is the big platform. Misfits has, KSI as the founder or CEO, whatever you want to call him. KSI has been someone who's inspired me from a very young age. I've been a massive fan of him. And to fight on his promotion is a dream come true and a goal, of course. And Misfits, because of how successful it is and how much of an audience it's got, that gives me the platform to be able to share my story with
Yeah.
everyone and inspire people with it, and hopefully they can see what I've done and think, you know, if I believe me when I say this, yeah, I'm someone who has to work 10 times harder than the average person just to get to the same level. If
Yeah.
I can achieve this thing, if I can get on Misfits, if I can win, if I can get from where I was to now, anyone can, and that's how I want to prove to people.
Bro, listen, I believe you will do, bro. I genuinely
I
do.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Before we wrap up, like you said, you're on TikTok and stuff. Just shout out your socials, and then we can also put them in the description box as well.
Yes, LHC on all my socials. We have to type in 3 letters LHC and you'll see it on there.
Listen, guys, bro, I appreciate you for taking the time to chat to us. As
I appreciate
always,
it, man. Thank you.
thank you for that. Guys, like, share, subscribe. As you know, we've got content constantly coming throughout the weeks, throughout the year. We're going to get more interviews. We're going to be at more events. So until next time, love and peace.